individually and as a community. We keep in our prayers, Lord, all the people to the east of us that suffered so much devastation. And we pray that you stay with them and support them. Guide us today, Lord, and give us wisdom, but also give us the respect of each other's opinions and the work that we do for the counties, the people that live here, and for tourism. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Call to order the meeting of the First Development Council, December 4, 9 a.m. Forum here. Brian? Here. Gary?
Present.
Pam?
Here.
For those who don't know, Trey Nick.
Here.
Trey's taking Commissioner Tony Anderson's place. Tony, thank you for everything. Richard Feldman's here. Tim? Tim's here. Matt?
Here.
Jim?
I'm here, thank you.
We have a quorum. At this time, they're all here, and I don't know, Jay, if they are or not. I'd like to introduce the new members. Okay. Seat number 2, as an elected official, is Tom Cooper. He's with the South Walton Fire District. He's not here. Seat 4 is an owner-operator of a rental firm, Jennifer Frost. Are you here this morning? Morning, Jennifer. Morning. Welcome aboard. Jim Shirley is seat number 7, tourism-related, owner of, you probably can't hear me, can you? That better? I love you all too. Seat 7 is tourism-related, Jim Shirley, owner of Great Southern Cafe, The Bay, and 83 Central Square, Baytown Provisions. Just saw Jim. Please stand up so we can recognize you. Welcome aboard. And seat number 9 is tourism-related owner-operator Stacy Hamilton, Vice President of Marketing at Alice Beach. Good morning and welcome aboard. Are there any public comments on today's agenda from the public? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is Jay, our director, who has something special.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, council members, Commissioner Nick, welcome aboard. So nice to have you here. Looking forward to working with you over the next couple of years on the council and certainly the next 4 years on the with the BCC.
Good, well, thank you, sir.
Just wanted this morning to recognize our outgoing council members for their service and dedication to this council. You have really done a great job representing this organization, and your input has been invaluable to us in leading the tourism industry forward for Walton County. So thank you all for your service. We really appreciate it. We'd like to present you with some plaques here this morning. I'd like to first present a plaque to Commissioner Tony Anderson. Thanks for all your
Thank you.
And then for the others, what we'll do is I'd like to present you with the plaques. Lisa will bring them to you, and then maybe afterwards we can take a couple of photos just so we can kind of keep the meeting going. So for the next person, I'd like to present a plaque to Brian Christensen for his service. Thank you for representing South Walton Fire District. And the next would be Pam Avery for her dedication. We thank you. Appreciate all your input, and I'm sure that we'll be working together in the future. I know we actually have some meetings scheduled the next couple of weeks. So, even though you guys are going off the council, we're still going to be working together. Your input is invaluable to our destination, and so looking forward to it.
Spelled my name right.
We did. And then we'd also like to recognize Jim Richard for your service. Thank you very much. And then last but not least, we'd like to thank Gary Bromeyer for his service and dedication to our team. Thank you very much, Gary. And let me just make sure that's five. That's five. Good. I didn't miss anybody.
We're out of plaques, so.
Yeah, we're out of plaques, so that means we're done with that. Anyway, and so again, thank you all for your service. Really, really appreciate everything y'all done for us, and look forward to working with y'all. Might not be in the same capacity, obviously, as council members, but we'll certainly be working together in another capacity.
Thank you, Jay. I forgot to mention, if you got a cell phone on, could you either turn it off or silence it? So there is the fine is, what's the fine now if a phone rings? Is it, you got to buy lunch for everybody? Yeah, I do too.
$5.
All right.
I'm gonna call you.
Excuse me. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. There are a number of them. The last one was 8/7/18, and then these also include the workshops that some of us attended and some that were open to the public. And then the last one is the last, let's see, 10/5 was our last TDC meeting, wasn't it, Jay? So I need a motion and a second on approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Did you get who got the second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Financial report. Jason, good morning.
Good morning, Council, Chair, Commissioner. Thank you for being here. Jason Cutchon, Director of Administration. Got a couple of quick slides for you this morning. This will be our August and September financials. This will close out our year. In August, year-to-date expenses, these include the spend and balance. These are numbers supported in your financial report as well as what you could find online. August, we were 92% through the year with no more than 68% in any department. In September, we're 100% through the year with no more than 79% spent in any department. This includes beach nourishment funding, which, as you know, beach nourishment, we only use it if we absolutely need to, so that is a pot of money that will sit there, and that's where you see some of that variance. As we close out the year, budgeted items such as the entire contingency for beach nourishment and any capital projects will be rolled over to the next year or to reserves. Next slide, you'll see a snapshot. This is our most recent month in revenue and reserves. We have for FY18 in bed tax collection as a total $25,728,284. This was anticipated revenue for FY18 was $23 million, so we passed that by 111.86% towards our annual goal. Our current bed tax collection for the month of September was $2,071,564. Our retail sales was $5,293. So our current month revenue total was $2,076,857. In reserves, you'll see it broken down by the 4 different percentages, along with the last 0.5% on the emerging market for a grand total of $45,625,674 in our reserves. The next slide will show a collection history. In August of this year, we collected $2.656 million in bed tax collection. That was 19.22% higher than August of last year. In September, we collected $2.071 million. That was 6.64% higher than September of last year. And so our year-to-date total is $25.728 million. That is 9.35% higher than FY 2017. So that's a substantial growth. And we just got our October numbers in yesterday. And so for October, we earned or collected $1.663 million in bed tax collection. That is 23.11% higher than October of last year. So big growth potential in that last month. Year closing, we had a record-breaking year with the economic driver of tourism and a strong collaboration between stakeholders, which has resulted in these numbers. And I appreciate all your support. Barring any questions, I would like to respectfully request the TDC financial reports for August and September 2018.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair. On your summary report for, let's see, you had about 1,000 units. Was that gross or was that net that we had?
For,
last
as
year.
far as growth
Added
wise,
on,
it
yeah.
is growth. It'll on that one slide. I had September data that I got from the clerk's office. It was about 1,000 unit growth from April of last year to September of this year. About 1,000 units. Now, some of those, I had a lot of conversation with the clerk's office. Some of those are Airbnb and VRBOs that weren't before on record, that are now being on record because of the clerk's office and their availability to be able to go in and kind of pinpoint those addresses. So that's increased. And some of them, you know, may be in there twice if, like, you use a company that also represents you, but you as well also, you know, do individual renting along the way. There may be a couple of two over, so, but still a pretty good growth on the amount of units, you know, that are out there available or that we're now tracking. So it makes a big difference. And I'll have more data for you guys throughout this year working with the clerk's office. We have some steps that we're putting in place to be able to kind of get a growth, you know, as far as like nightly rates, along with how many units we have. So,
That's great. Thank you.
yes, sir. You're welcome.
So that puts us at what, around 13,000?
Yes, close to 13,000 units. Yes, sir.
All right, need a motion and a second on approval of the TDC financial reports from Jason for August and September of 2018.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those, any comments from the public on the financials? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Jason, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.,
Introduction.
oh, you want to do the introduction for Bill? Okay.
Unless you'd like to.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, just wanted to introduce Bill Geist. We had our strategic planning workshop. I think all of y'all know him with the exception of Commissioner Nick. Commissioner Nick, just for your sake, I'll go through this real quick. So we've been doing our strategic planning, I guess for about 6 weeks now, 2 months. And we've had some sessions with our partners. We have had surveys sent out to our partners and to the residents. And the board has also had, council rather, has had a workshop. And so Bill has taken all the information that he has gathered through those different workshops and surveys and compiled now a draft of the strategic plan. So he's here this morning to present that to you. And he'll kind of just go through that, and they'll talk a little bit about the processes they went through to get to where they are. So anyway, I will let Bill take it up.
Morning, everyone.
Morning again,
Thank
Bill.
you so much for the opportunity to work with you over the past few months. It has been both eye-opening and exciting. Seems a little heavy of a word for a strategic plan, but it is, because we are in exciting times. And as Jay said, we started this process about 2.5, 3 months ago, actually, and when our firm, DMO Pros, which we work exclusively with destination marketing organizations across the country and list about 200 DMOs as clients over the past 20-some years. As we looked at the request for proposals that was sent out over the summer, we believed that we had the ability to perform the work that you were requesting, but we thought that we would augment that by bringing another person onto the team, and that is Renee Orang, who is an industry veteran who has worked at destination marketing organizations in Louisiana and Mississippi and Georgia. And we thought that she would help round out our understanding of the destination, not just because she's a veteran of this type of work, but because she's actually one of your customers, one of your very, very good customers. She vacations on the Panhandle almost every single year, and we thought that that innate understanding of just the lifestyle and the vibe here would really help us in digging into both resident and industry responses from the research we wanted to do, because we believe that strategic planning really is underpinned by the people who live in a destination rather than the people who visit. The marketing plan, which is in play and continues to evolve, that focuses on the visitors. The strategic plan makes this about quality of life, quality of place, and a place that we all can say, this is home, and be proud of and welcome visitors to join us. So the process, really quickly, as Jay said, we did online surveys with industry partners, with residents, and I gotta say, from the industry partner side, we've been doing this for a long time, we have never seen the level of response to an invitation to participate in an online survey that we saw here in South Walton. I mean, almost 50% of the people who were asked actually responded. And so, we're usually lucky to see 20%. So that says a lot of the engagement of your industry partners. And over 300 residents took the time to respond to the survey, so that was fabulous. On-site interviews, focus groups to better understand nuance, and then back to vet the intel with you all during the last week of October. It all distills down to about 3 goals. And that there's an awful lot of stuff in those 3 goals, but again, because we're focusing on the destination rather than the consumer, we think that these 3 primary goals help power the TDC and Visit South Walton forward in how you enhance the destination. This is, again, what the organization does to enhance the destination, build community support for the work of Visit South Walton. This is a draft. We encourage and solicit your input, your suggestions, your edits, because we'll be back with the hopefully final for your approval at your February meeting, and then we present that, once approved by you, to the Board of County Commissioners in March. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite Renee up to talk a little bit about the research and the findings that we were able to distill out of both your residents and the community partners. Renee?
I'm right here.
You're right there.
Right there. That's it. I snuck up on you. Well, you guys were all part of the process. Some one-on-one interviews, some group conversations. We had a lot of fun over the first week of October. Goodness, we had more than 100 participants that week with you, many of those that are here in the audience as well. And as Bill said, we had another 325 residents that responded. Amazing. Basically, what everyone came up with were the 3 goals that Bill's going to go over. Kind of sifted, like it came out. The first comment may have been, we got to do something about the traffic, or we have to do something about parking, but those all sifted up to being infrastructure and the TDC leading the conversation for the communities in building that infrastructure so that the residents and the visitors have a better experience while they're here. So Bill's going to go over all of the goals with you, but the process was really kind of seamless, and thank you all for your participation and your willingness to share and your honesty, and thank all of you here that participated as well. Okay, you want to go over the goals? Okay, great.
So, the 3 goals, and we don't number them. If you'd like, we can, but we find that numbering them tends to cause people to think that they are somehow chronologic, or that the first goal is more important than the others. We see all 3 as equally important and probably being pursued at the same time simultaneously. But one of the goals is to improve the destination's ability to enhance the visitor experience. Another is to increase the community's understanding and support for a thoughtfully planned visitor economy. And the other is to continue to expand the destination's capture of new visitors. Now, again, the capture of new visitors, that really is part of the marketing plan, but we believe that the strategic plan can help guide the marketing plan into new markets, shoulder season work, and help advise the next iteration of the marketing plan. So the goal that is to improve the destination's ability to enhance the visitor experience. Within that goal, we have a number of objectives. One, and I think primary, is how do we continue to upgrade the beach experience? And some of the suggested tactics that came out of the conversations that we had with you and with others is continue to acquire more property for public beachfront, support greater access to parking near public beaches, continue to develop disability-friendly beaches, and increase the number of code enforcement officers on public beaches to speed response time. I think it was one of the things that we heard most from the residents was a concern that the beaches were not the beaches that maybe we remember when it was a little less commercialized and it was a little less graceless at times. And so I think that there's a lot of support from the community to step up. In fact, one of the research findings that Renee uncovered was that people truly believe that the codes are in place. It's the enforcement that isn't happening. And that's just a question of staff. Objective B, in that improving the destination's ability to enhance the visitor experience, is to work collaboratively with transportation interests, as Renee said, to enhance mobility throughout the county. So some of the suggested tactics, support those enhancements to public transportation, advocate for more public parking, and advocate for improved wayfinding signage throughout the destination. It was interesting, there was a study done, I think, in New York City recently that essentially pointed to the lack of parking, and it turns out it isn't a lack of parking, it's a lack of signage, and that the congestion in New York City is primarily because of people circling looking for parking because the signs aren't there to say what's right over there. So sometimes it isn't more parking, sometimes it just is signage. Objective C is to continue to support shoulder season festivals and events. The thoughts here were to continue to analyze and diversify the events grants to ensure that revenues are increasing new and overnight visitation. And one of the interesting ideas was to consider an events roundtable of the people who actually stage the events, to get them together a few times a year so that they can begin to maybe do better calendaring, better scheduling. Maybe they can find new and improved ways of group buying for whatever, porta potties, and getting better deals. And let this be almost a self-help group, but also to help even out the calendar and place these events where we need them the most and not in the most congested times. Also to consider things like a December holiday offering and maybe a restaurant week or month in January or February. Those types of things to even out the festival and event season. Objective D is to analyze opportunities to enhance the destination's aesthetics. So beautification of gateways and intersections, considering maybe satellite visitor centers on the east and west borders, and more public art. There was a lot of support for public art, and possibly that's something that happens actually in the medians or at major intersections. And objective E is to analyze opportunities to develop additional entertainment opportunities. There was a concern about a lack of nightlife to hold people here and to encourage an overnight stay. So is there a possibility for a feasibility study to determine local and visitor interest and support for a performing arts venue, flexible space for other public uses, and some other non-beach related assets? So that's the first of the unnumbered goals. The next goal is to increase the community's understanding of and support for a thoughtfully planned visitor economy. If there was one thing that I think really stood out for me in looking at the research, it was that the community, clearly with 325 responses, is engaged and they're paying attention, but their level of understanding of the importance of the visitor economy isn't where it should be. And this isn't a poke at South Walton, because this happens all over the country. Even in some of the biggest tourism meccas, Joe and Jill Public just don't put the dots together, that this is an economy that employs their friends, their family. This is an economy that attracts new entrepreneurs to bring non-tourism related businesses to town, which powers job growth and quality of life and all the things that we want in the community. And so this goal really focuses on how do we better communicate as the TDC, as Visit South Walton, to residents to say, hey, it's an easy response to say, oh, we hate all tourists, but understand what we do here. And so objective A is to keep the residents informed of the TDC's work. Everybody's so, into their own worlds and lives, and it is hard to break through the clutter, but we've got to continue to increase the frequency of communication from this body to update stakeholders on the value, on new rules and codes, on changes in customary use. As you can all imagine, there's a fair amount of anger at customary use changes, and the question is how then can we mitigate that? And until or if it doesn't, at some point we have to have a better story to say, okay, this is how it works, this is how you inform your guests, this is how we can make this work for all of us. And the other is to consider several communication platforms. Everybody is gathering their information in different ways, so social media, newsletters, print media, electronic media, just to continue to expand our outreach as a TDC and Visit South Walton. Objective B is to engage industry partners in an effort to protect the visitor economy and the destination brand. And again, we need to figure out ways to educate our industry partners, who are often the front line to both residents and visitors, on how to advise the customer regarding changes to customary use, and continue to communicate the importance of referring to this community as South Walton. That was also, I think, a sticking point in the research that we found, was this concern that people are referring to us not by the way we'd like to be referred and known, and it is impacting our brand. And Objective C is to continue to facilitate the development of industry workforce. So this is about actively engaging in community discussions on workforce development, advising the Board of County Commissioners, enhancing the message regarding hospitality jobs, that these are not no-pay, low-benefit jobs, that the average hospitality worker, by the time they retire, this is the average hospitality worker, is making over $80,000 a year. These are not the jobs that some people dismiss as not meaningful, and I think we need to do a better job of communicating just how important these jobs are to the economy, and encouraging youth and retirees to enter the hospitality workforce. And finally, the goal of continuing to expand the destination's capture of new visitors. Objective A is to continue to evolve marketing to leisure travel consumers, and this really is an increased focus on shoulder season promotion to attempt to even out visitors over the year. So stressing winter activities, the availability of more laid-back pace at that time, and targeting the high-value consumer, those who will stay longer and spend more. Objective B is to continue to enhance efforts to attract more group business to South Walton. And this is about developing messaging that positions South Walton meeting as a unique experience for attendees, one that they won't normally find, and analyzing opportunities to expand efforts to attract movie and video productions to our shores. Objective C is to work with industry partners to collaborate and promote the South Walton brand. There was some suggestions that maybe it comes down to a partner toolkit. So it's easy, it's all there for them. They know how to use the brand, how to use the mark, how to communicate the essence of South Walton with brand standards and suggested ways to include the South Walton brand. And there was also some thought of making co-op funds available to those who will add the South Walton message to their own individual marketing and advertising. And finally, Objective D is to continue to analyze opportunities to promote attractions in North Walton County to expand the desirability of the destination. And this is really about stepping out of maybe our comfort zone and performing an asset inventory of the north part of the county to identify those experiences that could attract additional visitors without further congestion to South Walton County, and working with business interests in the north to identify their interest and the opportunities that may exist there. So in a really quick nutshell, that is the draft of what we believe are the primary goals and objectives before you over the next 3 years, and we would love to hear your thoughts and comments about this draft.
Well, Bill, excuse me, first of all, thank you to both you and Renee.
Thank you.
I think most of the council members and most of the TDC members have attended the workshops. I thought they were very, very well done, and compared to how we used to do it in the past, this is a real strategic plan, where in the past, I'm not so sure that it was, and I'm not criticizing anybody when I say that, but Jay made I think the recommendation that we use a third party, and I think getting a third party outside view of what's going on, I think you opened up a lot of eyes in our community, both you and Renee, and I like what I see.
Great, thank you.
Any other members of council want to make a comment, feel free.
No, I think there's some good suggestions that came out of this, and in the community involvement was what was really important. And I think as we have seen over the past few years, it's kind of stacked up, and now it's time to we know what we need to really address.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time for the TDC to kind of step up and get involved and make these things happen, as Director Tooster's been doing.
Yeah, I think putting the plan on paper, and as it stated in here, and delivering the message for a 10-year plan, or hopefully longer, but delivering a message to the public that this is what's going on, this is what we're doing, so that every hurdle's not an obstacle, along the way, that it's laid out and there's opportunity that we can get over the hurdles faster.
All right, Jay brought up, Jay and I talked, and it was brought up here too in your presentation. We assume that everybody has electronic media, and that's the only way we get, but I get stuff in the mail, and it'll be a newsletter from either Sandestin or from whatever, and newsletters are very effective. especially the people that aren't involved in the tourism industry. They live here, but they see how it affects their quality of the life that they have. And sending out a newsletter every so often is something they can sit down at their leisure and read and really get caught up on and not rely on the biased reporting of a newspaper. Did I just say that? So, I think things like that are real important to get to the core community, the people that live here and are affected by the tourism that we bring here. So,
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Renee. We appreciate your efforts, and they certainly speak for themselves in this report. I think the thing that I was most excited about was that you have 3 very succinct goals. The tactics, it seems, that were derived from your study came from the folks that have expressed a desire to contribute to your report. So you're using the ideas that they gave to you, and they're real, and they're doable. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and I think that's the crux of at least the way we do strategic planning is, this may be a wonderful document that takes you far, but it's your words. We just found ways to categorize them and put them forward.
Jay, do we need to make a motion on having them go forward from the preliminary results to a final draft, or is this just a report that we keep as for record keeping?
Council Atkinson said that he should make the motion, but I would also recommend that we put some type of time frame on there of when the council can review the information and give some more solid feedback, if you choose to staff and then to Bill and Renee with DMO Pros. That way, this is just the draft, so if there's any more input, now's the opportunity for that input to be given.
But to understand what we have talked about in the past was that part of this ongoing effort is going to be with new council members.
Correct.
And that's the reason that we split it the way we did, so
Correct.
that the old members would have some input and the new members would have some input. So is this preliminary final, or is it going to have to include?
It is not final. So if you want to provide some feedback to us, and we have given copies to the new council members as well, and if they want to provide their feedback as well, everyone is more than welcome to do that at this point.
Okay, so what you need is a motion for him to proceed with a time limit of.
Yes, sir.
Jay, give me some direction.
I would think with the holidays on us,
Yeah.
I would think if everybody wants to get their feedback back to us by maybe mid-January, you think, Bill?
Yeah,
Or
that would work.
that would work with your schedule? Okay.
All right.
I can look at my calendar and I can give you a date if you'd like a date.
And one of the things I would encourage is there is a lot of resident and community input here that we have included. We don't believe it is necessarily our role to out of hand just say, nah, but that's really your role. There may be more here than you're willing to pursue. And so I think the first pass, when you take a look at this, when you have some time, is to say, these are all really great ideas, but this one right here, don't need it, and take it out. But at the same time, be looking at, did we miss something that's important enough? And then, if we have a couple of weeks between when the deadline is for your input back to us before we bring this back to you for your final approval in February, then we can spend the next couple of weeks trying to dig down and figure out, did we miss something? Can we go back into the research and find something? So I would say my recommendation is first pass, take out the things that you don't think are appropriate. Second pass, add in what you think we may have missed.
So why don't we do a month? That would be January 4th, which is a Friday. Our TDC agenda items are due on the 11th. That's just an internal thing for us, but that would give us time to get the information from you, and if we need to make changes, that gives us time to work with Bill and Renee before those items get placed on the agenda for the February meeting. Does that work for everyone? That's a month.
Okay, so,
That gives your staff enough time to get everything prepared for the meeting in February?
It does.
given the holidays and everything, is that enough time for us to get feedback?
That's good for me.
It's coming fast. I mean, that's 30 days. I'm just telling you. I'm gonna be out of town for part of that. So anyway, I guess I need somebody to make a motion to that effect, please.
I make a motion to approve it.
You need to state it.
To state the motion, the motion to move forward with this on a time frame of 30 days
Okay.
for June.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? None seen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None is seen. Motion carries. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you all
Renee,
very much.
thank
Happy
you very
holidays.
much.
So thank you very much.
Great, we'll see you next year.
You guys
Thank
have done a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Jay, next item on the agenda, I guess, is the dates for next year.
Yes. So for the, and actually I'll have to kind of maybe talk through some of these for the new council members. So this is the approval for the meetings in 2019. So they are there for you. So February 5th, April 2nd, June 3rd or 5th, and I'll come back to that in a second, August 6th, October 1st, and December 3rd. And the reason why June is 3rd or 5th and not the 4th is because this room is booked for a court hearing. So we cannot have this room that date, so we need to move the meeting. So I wanted to ask the council on those particular days if they have a preference on the Monday or the Wednesday, and that would be a question to the council members who will be staying on, and then for the new council members, if y'all want to let me know what's better on that date, and we can just go ahead and put that in and vote on that today.
I think, and I can just speak for myself, coming off of weekends is always hardest on most of us. So to jump in on the TDC meeting first thing on a Monday morning, there's a lot of other things on our plates and burning on the stove. So I would personally prefer the Wednesday.
I would too. Yeah, I think Wednesdays are
Okay.
better. You get
Tim,
settled
okay.
into the week a little more.
Yeah, I agree. Wednesday's good.
Nothing good happens on Monday.
All right, so we'll scratch the 3rd and we'll say Wednesday the 5th. All right.
All right. Need a motion on that? Thank you, Cliff. Somebody needs to make a motion to approve the dates.
Motion to approve the dates with the date of June 5th for our meeting.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Executive Director Compensation. I'd like to give you all a little bit of background on that. Jay, I'm going to use you by your first name because I don't like your last name. Jay's been with us about 2.5 years, and his current salary, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, is $128,052.70. But I want to give you some comparisons. Dan Rowe, who is Bay County TDC Director, what did you say our final numbers were for this year? 25 million? 27 million. Bay County last year did $22 million. Their TDC executive director makes $196,000 a year. To our west, Jennifer Adams is the Okaloosa County director. Last year, Okaloosa County TDC did $20 million, and her salary is $158,000. And she has been with the TDC in that position for 1.5 years. Dan at Bay County has been there 11 years. So what I see, and these are just comments, not part of a motion or anything, what I see is a huge disparity, not only based on salary versus income, if we look at it from a business standpoint, which we should. We have the lowest paying director with the highest revenue, on top of which we've had to deal with tremendous issues. We've acquired new property for a new TDC office visitor center. We've had the challenge of customer usage. I've worked with Jay since day one, so I'm absolutely unbiased in my feelings. But I think that personally that we need to get our director in line with our adjoining counties. These are competitive positions, and I'm not saying Jay's leaving, and that there's no innuendo to that effect at all. But to have him paid what he is compared to what his compatriots are being paid, and for the amount of revenue that he generates. And I think the third thing is, over the last 2.5 years, if we look at the past history of the TDC, I've seen more progress personally in the TDC in the last 2.5 years than I think I have seen in the last 6 or 7 years. There's been a tremendous change, not only in personnel, but in attitude and in energy and in cooperation. I think Jay's put just a tremendous team together, and we've been there to support him. So I just want to leave those opening comments with y'all. I don't, obviously, what we recommend, may not be what the Board of County Commissioners agrees to. Are you listening?
I'm always.
But I think we need to have a discussion about getting Jay on par with our neighbors. I think he's doing a tremendous job. I mean that from a personal standpoint, and having countless meetings and discussions with him. And the changes that I've seen in the last 2.5 years have been tremendous. I think that in this study that we're doing, this strategic planning, we see some areas of weakness, but we also see some areas of a tremendous improvement. And so I'm going to leave it at that, and wanted to share my feelings on it as chair, but this is going to be a council decision and a council motion, so I leave it. I'm going to open up the discussion to the council members.
Has there been any additional compensation over the last 2.5 years from the original salary, or is that what you were?
His original salary was, in April of 2016, was $119,500. And then he had a COLA adjustment in 2016 of October of $3,500. And then a COLA adjustment in 2017 October of 2% for $2,400. And then a COLA adjustment in 2018 of October for $2,510. So he's gone in 2.5 years from 119 to 128, Jim.
Yeah, Richard, I agree with these sentiments entirely. In looking at the history, it's apparent that all that's really taken place in terms of rewarding Jay for his services, just cost of living, 2 to 3%. That barely keeps up with inflation, which that's where it's running these days. In this area, we've always been challenged by finding good talent and keeping good professionals on board. And I think when you're fortunate enough to find somebody who's got the skill set, I think you have to, reward them, appropriately if you want to keep their loyalty and keep them on board. Like you said, I've heard no rumors at all about Jay. He's not out trying to shop his job by any means. And when I think of Jay Tusa, I think of somebody who's proactive. He's a real leader. He's out in front of issues instead of lagging behind. He's not reactive. He's entirely proactive. And I've seen great performance over the last 2 years. And I think a significant increase, at least something more than typical cost of living, is definitely warranted.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, and I've known Jay since he began here. I was on the selection committee when he was hired. There's a huge difference of professionalism, strength, and leadership under his guidance, and that he has created a sense of loyalty among those people that work with him, and also these council members, and that's what leadership does. Now, we look in this report about protecting our resources. It's all about protecting them. I see Jay as an individual, as a professional, as one of our resources that we need to protect. And one way that you protect those resources is you make them feel important. You make their salary, not their COLA increases, not the cost of living. That's not what I'm talking about. You need to look at salaries based on who your competitors are. because we don't want, any possibility of being on the low side of that competition. And I think we would be remiss if we knew this, which we now know, and did nothing about it. And I think Jay deserves it.
We were like in the top 10 in the state of Florida for the last, I don't know how many years, as far as revenues and TDCs. And we're probably one of the smallest counties with a TDC. And to produce that kind of revenue and to manage and we actually have an additional number of employees also to manage and take care of the excellent organization we have. But, you know, to me, that's another thing to look at, is that to be able to manage that and improve on it, you gotta have good leadership. And we don't wanna lose the leadership that we have. That's all.
I'll agree with what everybody's just saying. Been on the board like most of us are, at least 4 years, seen the transition with the staff that Jay's done has been phenomenal. And one thing I think that hits all of us with the strategic planning is in the last 2.5 years we've watched Jay, is that he's got a good ear for what, an eye for what the public is wanting, because he has done a very excellent job of leading us in the direction before we would have the strategic planning and leading us in the direction for that, so.
Yeah, he's a huge asset to this county, and I like what he's brought to Walton County. I've seen the change myself personally in my business, and I like to keep him here.
Well, you know, somebody told me once, and I think it's very true, most of us here are employers in one way or another. We don't hire employees for time. We tend to pay them for time. We say, you know, you're gonna make this much an hour, or your salary is gonna be this much. But when we hire somebody, we're not hiring them for the time that they serve, we hire them for their value. And I think that's the crux of what's happening here, and what we all recognize is that we have a valuable asset here, and he needs to be compensated for his value, not for his time.
Could we support a motion to recommend to the BCC that, they consider a pay increase,
Do we have a percentage or a number?
15 to 20%? Of course, it's their decision, but I would like to offer that motion so that it could be considered.
I would second that.
I just have a question. Should we keep it to one, should we give him a range, do you
Yeah.
think?
I think we should.
Yeah, I think you ought to give him a range, whatever range we set.
Make it competitive to the
And-
percentage of what they make in the other counties to their
Take-
tax,
That's 15%.
make it more competitive.
15%
is
would put him right about
147.
19,000, 19,200, so.
And what's
15% would be about 147,
What would 20% be?
so 20% would be, bring it up to 128, 25,600.
So that would put him at 153.
It's 153.6.
So he's still kind of at the low end of the spectrum.
Right.
But,
Can I still comment?
absolutely.
Yeah. Efficiency is money, and his efficiency is unprecedented. That's what I'd like to say.
My only concern, I want to go back to what I said originally, is that still leaves him at the low end. But then from a political standpoint, I understand that if you go to the county commissioners and say, we want to give this guy a $50,000 a year raise, it's probably not going to happen. So in my mind, I'm trying to find the balance of what's certainly going to be fair to Jay.
Sure.
But what's also going to be acceptable to the county
Right,
commissioners.
and so maybe to give Jay the best chance of getting what we're all trying to get is
Yeah.
maybe you propose something in the 15% range. What it also does is it leaves some room for in a year or two from now, we can talk about this again. You know, if the performance continues on the, on the upward path that we're on now.
I totally agree. I think if we go too high, then it puts it tough on the BCC. I think 15 to 20% would be a good range to gives them, as far as what Trey's mentioning, to give them a range
could we, if we did your motion,
And that's the motion I heard, was to recommend a 15 to 20%.
right, and we have a second on that.
second
now
And I
discussing
second,
it.
yeah.
15 to
What
20.
if we added to that, Jay gets a review within 24 months?
You are reading my mind. I was just thinking that for the future,
Yeah.
I think it is important that merit be rewarded, and that in a year, set a date from the last, whatever this increase is, do a review to determine a merit increase, an additional merit increase, so that his salary keeps progressing the way it should based on his results. So,
Would you like to amend your motion?
I'd like to amend my motion. I would like to move, to recommend to the BCC that they consider a pay increase in the amount of 15 to 20% with a yearly review, a year from the date that increase is effective.
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion? Any comments from the public? Ma'am? Good morning. Can you state your name for the
morning.
record, please?
Lisa Johnson.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I have worked with Jay, and I am definitely for this pay increase. I agree with Pam. A COLA is not a pay increase. And Richard, I'm glad you pointed out to us the variances to the east of us and to the west of us. I think that's real important when you go in and ask for something. One other marker I would ask you to look at is, I don't know what the head count is to the east of us and the west of us. And what I mean by that is the hierarchy, you know, the TDC at the top. I don't know the head count that Jay is responsible for, but that might further sweeten your request to the BCC and giving them ammunition to make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Jim? Still have to state your name for the record.
Hi, Jim Bagby,
Good morning.
VAGBY, bed tax collector. I support the increase too, but I would ask you to consider this. I don't think this county, unlike the other two, would pay the executive director more than the county administrator. But what they might consider doing is if you do a bonus structure where you have an evaluation, where you say if he grows 8% or 12% or whatever, there could be some kind of bonus based on that. But to say raise his base salary 15, 20%, which would make it a lot more than the county attorney and the county administrator, probably not supportable in this county. The other thing I would tell you is before you do that, you need to go to the Florida DOR, Tourist Development Tax Collection. You'll see that in the state's fiscal year ends in June. At the end of the state's fiscal year, we were 14th in bed tax collections. Now, we had not reported for May and June, but neither had Bay County, and we were behind Bay County just slightly, and we were behind Okaloosa County by about $3 million, but they had reported May and June. So you need to get the May and June reports for Bay County and for this county so that you can make an argument, because you go in and you say, we collect so much more than the neighboring two counties, and then somebody pulls up the DOR report and says, not exactly. You kind of lose some velocity for your argument there. So, subject to your questions, I would support an increase, but I would probably tie it to performance, and I would tie that to a bonus, not to a base increase that COLAs and everything else is figured off of. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. The only comment I'd like to make before we vote is that, hearing what they've said, I don't mind the idea of like merit raises or based on performance. We could certainly look at that if the county accepts that. This is the first time that his salary has been reviewed in 2.5 years. And I think it's appropriate that we move forward with in spite of the comments that we heard this.
Yeah, I mean, talk about performance, based on performance, well, I've seen the performance firsthand. Speaks for itself.
Yeah, and if there's not any performance, I think there's other recommendations from that too. So, you know, I'm sure that's what he strives for each and
Well,
every day.
I
So,
think one of the things I want to mention that Jim brought up is Larry Jones is the county administrator, and his salary is $148,282. Sometimes you run into political quandary where the county administrator is making the same amount of money or less money than the tourist development director. And I think we'll just have to let the chips fall where they may. And we've given them a variance, and at 15%, he's going to be a little bit under that. So if that's where they decide to go, then
Does the county administrator generate revenue? I don't think so.
Well, I was just going to say he spends money, doesn't collect money.
Right, so there's a difference there that I'm sure they will consider.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But the
And having
then-
Trey here, Trey can certainly, if you'll take, and are taking notes.
You got your, the basis of a bonus plan right here.
Absolutely. All right, any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, council members. Brian, our Director of Beach Operations, thought he was younger than he was and tried to pull a car out of the garage by himself and threw his back out. So Jay has the honor of doing the beach operations
You know,
report.
I can sympathize. My back goes out from time to time. So when he called me and said I threw my back out, I said, okay, I'll take your agenda items for you.
Well, I just want you to know that doing Brian's reports.
Yeah. We're going to go fast.
It doesn't equate to a bonus either.
Well, we're going to go fast through his reports. I might give him a little lesson on squeezes there.
Thank you,
So,
Jay. Go ahead.
first off, let me go back to the last agenda item, and let me say thank you all for your confidence in me. It means a lot. And one thing that I want to say is it's not all about me. It's about my team. I wouldn't be able to do half of what I can do without my team. I mean, that's the reason why we're so successful at the TDC. It's not all about Jay Tusa. It's about the team we have in place. I mean, from the front line of, the visitor center where we have those folks interacting with our guests, the code enforcement officers, the beach ambassadors, our trash people who are picking up garbage on the beach, they interact with our customers. I mean, those are the frontline workers of the TDC, and they're the ones who are really doing the heavy lifting for the organization. So again, I can't do what I do without my team. So I want to throw some kudos their way. They're fantastic. So anyway, thank you.
But we don't want you to forget that you're the leader.
Well, and I am, and I do realize that, but I try to be humble. Like I said, it's not all about me. It's about the team we have in place.
Thank you, Jay.
So, thank you. So I have a couple of agenda items. The next two agenda items, one is for construction of the new visitor center, and the other is, behind that, is for the visitor center design itself. And when I say design, I'm really speaking about not the building, but the facility, the room, the visitor center, and what that's going to look like. So what do we need that space to be? Do we need it to have exhibits? Do we need it to be interpretive? And so I'll talk some more about that, but in a moment. But wanted to kind of get some clarification and some guidance on moving these agenda items forward to the Board of County Commissioners. Just for your FYI, we have meetings, interviews tomorrow with 3 architecture firms. So we'll be selecting an architect at the close of those interviews. And we'll be moving that forward back to the county commissioners once we make that selection for their approval to move forward with the contract with whichever firm we select. So very exciting. Hopefully we can get moving forward, in the next month or so with having a team, negotiate a contract and then get our sleeves rolled up and get to work on the new facility. So with that said, we needed to work with a construction firm to work with the architecture firm. And so the agenda item that we have is recommend consideration and approval to the BCC for the new Visit South Walton Administration and Visitor Center Building Construction Project Delivery Method. And so Brian put this together because he is the builder in our group. I am not. So I will muddle my way through this. But there are a few different delivery methods that we can look at for the new building. One is a design bid build, which is kind of your traditional way of you hire an architect, They design a building, you hire a construction firm, they build your building. And so far, we've done an RFQ for the architecture firm, and so we're getting ready to select that firm. So the next option for us is a construction manager at risk. And so with the construction manager at risk, we would hire a construction manager to come in and work with the architect early on in the process. And so they would set fees and what things would look like. What it would cost to build the facility based on the design. So they would work with the architect in the design phase of the project. So that is the way we're looking at going. That is Brian's recommendation, and I will certainly defer to him as he is a builder. And the other method is skipped one here, a design build. In a design build, that is where you have a system where the entities are more than one company. And so the, let me just make sure I get this right. So the company, us, the county, would hire a team under one contract to deliver the construction project. And so since we've already started with selecting an architect, really we should do it where we do it kind of in stages. So we have the construction manager working with the designer. And then the other one is a project, an integrated project delivery. And that is similar to that construction manager at risk. And so, the county would select a architecture and engineering firm, and then and also a construction manager prior to the kickoff of the project design, which we haven't quite done that yet, and I'm not sure if we can do that time-wise. But basically, though, with that, the way that works is all parties would kind of sign the contract collectively, and we're not really comfortable with that. We'd rather have it where the construction manager is separate from the architect, and then that way they can oversee that project and represent the county. This is going to be a big project, and we really need a construction project manager beyond Brian Kellenberger or Josh Irvin. They're busy. I mean, right now we're building 3 other beach accesses, and so our recommendation to the council and ultimately to the board is that we look at the construction manager at risk method.
Is there a considerable cost increase in using a CMAR?
From my conversation with Brian, he said that there really shouldn't be.
Okay. You're adding another layer, though.
We are.
Yeah, normally, if you've got that CM, if he's the right guy, you can really save a lot of money though, because it becomes more of a collaborative process with the architect.
Right.
So you can prevent the architect from over designing, which can really drive your budget through the roof. And then you can also go through a VE process or a value engineering process where, it's like, well, we don't want to over-engineer the building. Maybe we can do without this in favor of this or a different construction type. But I would also ask, how do you intend to choose that CM? Because that's going to be the critical guy. Are you going to pre-qualify?
We'd like to do a request for qualifications.
Yeah, okay.
For that, and then for the next agenda item that we'll talk about in a moment, like do RFQs for both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying basically is that it kind of keeps everybody honest as well. The construction company can't start billing stuff that says, well, we didn't know about it, or, this is how we interpreted it, and the architect can't over-design something that the contractor can't produce at the price that he quoted, et cetera, because that's where you run into the issues.
Essentially, and then also, if he's a good CM, he can really read the drawings closely. He can make sure that the architect is not missing anything, or he's designing to something that can actually be constructed.
That was Brian's point, exactly.
Because that's where a contractor will get you. They'll change order you to death if they say, well, it wasn't on the plans,
Right.
So you just have to. The CM can be the referee with that whole process.
And they can really help with the architect as well, because sometimes architects can, they like to be creative, and sometimes though you need to kind of keep that in check of, okay, what's great for us creatively, but also economically feasible.
But they're creative, but they also have egos.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a mosquito control. We just went through this process, and as a matter of fact, we're doing it this way with the separation of the architect and construction. It's you combine them both. There's some advantage to that sometimes, but sometimes when you combine them both, you can be held hostages with that contract. You're kind of stuck. And so with this, you got the separation and somebody to help facilitate that.
And then it's a team. I mean, you have obviously us as the county, then you have the project manager, the construction manager, and then you have the architect
So I
and
recommend
engineer.
that be the way we go, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
That's it for this
Okay.
agenda item, and then I'll address the other one separately.
Okay, so we have a recommendation from Jay to approve construction manager at risk for the new administration and visitor center building, so need a motion on that.
So move.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Have a second. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, Jay.
All right, great, thank you very much. For the next item, we have, this is the one I was referring to, I kind of did them in tandem in the beginning. So request approval and recommendation to the BCC to move forward with an RFQ for a design company to work collaboratively with the TDC's new architecture firm to create an interactive interpretive experience in the new TDC Welcome Center. So we really want somebody who has a knowledge of exhibits and interactive displays to work with the architect so they can design the space itself. Do we need a 1,500 square foot visitor center, or do we need a 3,000 square foot visitor center? Honestly, right now at this point, I can't tell you. So we want to hire a firm that can help us develop the best visitor center that we can possibly develop in this new facility. So we'd like to hire this person, this team, to work with the architect as they design the facility.
All right, have you sent out RFQs on it?
I have not. I wanted to get approval from the council first, and I'll bring it to the board next, and then we'll do RFQs.
Do you have any idea what that's gonna cost?
I do not.
Okay. Any discussion from the council?
No, I mean, it makes sense. It really makes sense. Instead of just kind of having an architect that's not totally familiar with the tourism industry.
It completely makes sense. Yeah, it equals more traffic, and more traffic, even just we've seen from the retail standpoint, more traffic and increased retail could bring more revenue in to pay for the project in the long term.
And I don't mean
We
this.
we know that the retail sales are gonna go right through the roof.
Right.
It's worth the new, I mean, it's just,
And-
that's a
and-
no-brainer.
The more efficiently it's designed, it will increase those sales.
Well,
Absolutely.
It has a direct return on investment.
In architects, they like to design buildings because they like that design building. You know what I mean? It's that look. Sometimes it's not always what's inside.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Or what's best for the end user, our visitors who are coming for the experience, whether it's to pick up a brochure, if they want to see an interactive display on coastal dune lakes perhaps. I'm just pulling that out of the air. But, I mean, we have so many assets here. I mean, our coastal dune lakes, our forest, our parks, and then, I mean, the fish, the wildlife, flora, fauna. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about in a visitor center. We have our products that we can promote. We also have local products that we can promote. So there's a lot of things we can put in this visitor center. So we need to make sure we hire a firm that can really come in and evaluate all the stuff we think we may want to put in there and make sure that it's all what needs to go in there and what that space needs to be to accommodate that.
I agree.
All right, any more discussion, questions? Need a motion?
Motion to approve, move forward.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? All those in favor of request for approval of recommendation to the BCC for an RFQ on design, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Go ahead, Jay.
All right, the next agenda item, the council at the last meeting had directed us to bring forward to the Board of County Commissioners a consideration to do a coastal survey. And so we have done that. We've got a proposal back, scope of work from our coastal engineering firm, Taylor. And so the next agenda item is to recommend approval to the BCC for Taylor Engineering to perform coastal survey to obtain typographic and bathymetric data for the cost of $124,897. And Duncan Greer with Taylor is here, and I'll ask him just to kind of come up and give you a quick update of what this scope looks like. So, Duncan?
Good morning, Council. Duncan Greer with Taylor Engineering. Just to give you a brief overview of the proposal for beach survey data collection as requested by TDC staff. This is to collect countywide beach profile survey data and mean high water shoreline position data. So it's a total of approximately 130 beach profile survey lines, which are each about 3,000 feet long, and then over 20 miles of higher density mean high water shoreline position data collection across the county, excluding our state parks. And this is a central component of proactive beach management and planning, and it serves the county on multiple fronts. And just shortly, that documents the condition or the state of the beach and allows us to make determinations of erosional or accretional trends across, county line to county line. And it also documents or can provide documentation of pre or post-storm conditions of the beach should we, potentially need emergency funding following a severe storm event. And it also serves as a baseline for any future permitting efforts related to beach nourishment. In coordination with TDC staff, we plan to collect the survey data in the spring months or early summer months, and that's just following the general recommendations of the FDEP beach monitoring standards, and also just follows our past monitoring efforts and the time of the year that the survey is collected, so that those surveys year to year or between multiple years are comparable, just due to the state of the beach between the erosive condition in the winter and the more accretive condition in the summer. So that's our brief overview. If anybody has any questions,
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Everybody talks about the mean high water line.
Yes, sir.
Is it true or is it not true that that is a constantly moving line?
Yes, and so that's exactly what it is. A mean high water position is an elevation. So that elevation, as the waves move the sand around, that elevation lands along the beach profile in different horizontal positions. And so, yes, that mean high water survey is just documentation of what the mean high water survey is for essentially that day.
Yep.
But it does serve for multiple purposes, for being able to show the mean high water is a requirement of any permitting efforts that we'll undertake or may undertake, and also just provides a solid line documentation that's an updated from our previous survey, which I think was conducted in 2014.
Okay. I think this may also have some benefit on the customary use as to, and I think that's part of the reason that we asked for it. Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. Part of this also has to do from a political standpoint as far as customary use as to exactly where that line is. Just want to make sure everybody was aware of that.
And my question was, and I think you answered it, we have historical data from Taylor Engineering to benchmark.
Exactly. So we have numerous years of past data collection that followed, that was collected for the HSDR project, county line to county line, and also to that was related to our past beach nourishment efforts, like the Walton County Destin Beach Nourishment Project. And so that data collection effort ended in 2014. The county's not required to do any monitoring, but as I said, it's a proactive management measure, and also provides us the data that we may need should the county pursue, any permitting efforts for beach nourishment or dune restoration.
So last one
or
was
anything.
2014, so this will give us a nice benchmark as to what's changed in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the scope of work include publicly owned as well as privately owned beaches?
Yes, ma'am. The only part of the beach county line to county line that's excluded is the mean high water survey along county parks. And the reason that's excluded is because the county wouldn't propose to perform any beach nourishment in that area, and customary use isn't an issue. So there's no real reason to spend the extra money to document the mean high water position that detailed along the state parks. However, we will be collecting beach profile data so that we can perform erosional and accretional trend analyses and document the volume of sand along those areas of the beach.
You said county parks, but you meant state parks.
So I'm sorry, yes, sir. I
I
meant
just
state
want to make
parks.
sure we were
Yes,
clear on that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Apologize.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I need a motion, please. Thank you very much, by the way.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Motion to approve Taylor Engineering for the cost of $124,827.
Second.
We have motion second. Any comments from the public? Jim?
Just one question. I heard the mean high water line mentioned, but I didn't hear the ECL mentioned. So as part of the scope of work, identification of the location of the erosion control line in the western part of Walton County, from 4 Mile Village to the Okaloosa line.
So the ECL was documented previously for the HSDR project, and that ECL is essentially a recorded mean high water shoreline position that was submitted with that, for that permitting effort. It's a state requirement for the mean high water shoreline position to be documented, and that's essentially a fixed condition called the erosion control line. As the HSDR project was tabled and that permitting effort is essentially null at this point, this is just a mean high water survey. It may be able to serve as a new ECL should the county pursue permitting, but the ECL that was documented previously is essentially a previously documented ECL. And so this survey doesn't have anything to do with the previously documented erosion control line. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, this ECL doesn't go away. I mean, if the mean high water line is further seaward, then you could establish a new one, but you couldn't establish a new one if it's landward. My question is, I guess then, will you require the ECL to be overlaid on the maps that are presented to you? Because there's some question in the western end of the county on whether the ECL is in the water, not in the water, how much sand there is between the ECL and the current mean high water line. And so I think it would help you because the mean high water line in the western end of the county is irrelevant. Okay? It just is irrelevant. So you need at least to capture that ECL and depict it on the maps that are produced as part of this project.
Just quickly to clarify, Mr. Bagby is absolutely correct. In the western end of the county where there has been a beach nourishment project, there is an existing documented ECL. It's just not across the entire county line. And so, yes, that, and should the county or TDC staff request that, we can have our surveyors overlay that previously documented ECL on that same determination of the new and previously documented ECL.
I would just ask that you amend your motion and you require that ECL, because that is the governing line. The mean high water line is not the governing line in the western part of the county, that it be overlaid on these surveys. Thank you.
Is there an extra charge for doing that?
No.
We just want to let you walk.
No,
back and forth.
I don't think that it shouldn't be a significant charge. It may require a little additional funds. I'll have to come back and let you know on that. But I don't think it would be a big deal to have our surveyor overlay that on the plans. This scope of work is predominantly a pass-through for us. Our sub-consultant will be performing the survey and preparing the survey drawings. So I'll have to double check on that, but I'm almost sure that we can have our surveyors overlay that, and we can just provide them that data, that ECL location if they don't already have that.
All right.
Requested at no additional charge.
Pardon me?
Requested a motion for no additional charge.
I was gonna say, if you wanna close the deal today, you need to throw it in.
Yeah.
Or we can push it to the next meeting.
Well, I think it's imperative from a timeline that we do get this done, and I think that I like Jim's suggestion that ECL line be established on the survey. And if there's a slight variation in cost, Taylor Engineering will be willing to eat it, and,
I mean, it says $124,897, right?
yeah.
So we need to amend the amendment, amend the
We need to
motion.
amend the motion to make sure that the final maps that they provide us with have an ECL line on them. I think Jim Bagby's suggestion was an excellent one, and I'd like to see us amend that.
Motion to amend the survey to include the ECL at the western end of the county.
In a second. Any other further comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Well, carrying on what Duncan just said, we'll get a revised price with that addendum that we just did, and then we'll include that when we move it forward to the BCC.
That's fine.
And, unless it's something extraordinary, I mean, the board would just approve it. They'll just take your recommendation of the 124.
I think it's
897.
critical with the atmosphere the way it is right now, that we can get as much information as we possibly can while they're out there working.
I think we're
We
good.
might have to go back.
Yeah.
All right, director's updates is next. Mike? The way we remember Mike is he's in charge of marketing, so we call him M&M.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mike Kerrigan, Director of Marketing.
Good morning, Mike.
Just want to give you a few updates on what's been going on over the last 2 months and some ongoing projects to give you some updates on. We wrapped up our out-of-town activation schedule, second weekend in November in New Orleans at the Boudin Bourbon and Beer Festival. This was our third consecutive year attending this one, so we had the benefit of that history where we had learned some lessons and tweak it each year to get a little bit more efficient. This one is our biggest footprint of the year. We have a 40 by 60 space. We bring 6 chefs with us, as well as a large promotional space. Went extremely well. We were really happy with it. But among our 6 chefs, we gave out 9,000 samples of food, all very branded South Walton. As you see in the photos there, kind of 2 separate areas, one for food sampling that was heavily branded South Walton, and then another dedicated area for destination promotion, all under one tent. Thousands of people interacted with. We were extremely pleased with the way that it went. If you remember from last meeting I updated, we were in September in Nashville and Chicago at similar events, food and wine festivals, all with a very affluent, high-end audience and a very high ticket price. So real happy with how the activations went this fall. We're now planning for next fall and likely to repeat some of these and add some new opportunities as well. So really happy with how that one went. We talked during the budgeting process about a heavier investment in video production. We are currently in production on a couple different projects. We've talked before about South Walton Fishing Adventures. That continues in production for season 2, which will begin airing after the first of the year. We're happy with the way that long-form program is going. Something we're doing new this year, we did it 3 or 4 years ago as well, and we've gone back to it this year, a program called Atlanta Eats, which airs obviously in the Atlanta area. Focusing on food and restaurant promotion. They were here filming in the market a month ago or so we're in the post-production on that currently, so that'll air in market in Atlanta. Again, after the first of the year, we'll also get several assets that we can mine out of that footage that we'll be able to use for our own use. So we continue in the video production to focus a lot, of course, on the beach, but the food and beverage scene here as well. So excited about those 2 projects. And those will be coming to completion on production here within the next month or so. The 2019 publication schedule, we're excited about that. We've talked about it for a while. We've got the new visitor guide going off to the printer, I think yesterday. So excited about that for the calendar year 2019. We also have our 4 supplemental pieces, Savor and Forever, our dining and wedding guides respectively. You guys have seen in the past. Those will be tweaked a little bit and updated for the coming year. And 2 new ones that'll kind of complete the family of publications, Explore, which is an outdoor adventure guide, and Scene, which is a guide to arts, culture, and special events. The Scene covers blurred there. It's the artwork of the 2019 Artist of the Year, which we haven't announced yet. But David might have some more information on that. All of these will come out at the end of January. Around the time of the announcements of our Perfect Awards and our Artist of the Year Award announcement. So really excited to get those out in the marketplace. We think they'll be great assets for us. The 2 that we produced this year were very well received, so we're excited to kind of expand that family of publications and get them into people's hands. Well, some of the numbers here, the digital analysis, as you see there, the thing that'll jump out big time at you here is the big dip in the brand campaign for October. That was a result of Hurricane Michael. In the couple days leading up to it and for about 10 days following it, we paused a lot of our digital marketing efforts for a couple reasons. One, because of a little bit of unknown of what we were dealing with here at home, and then also just respectful to our neighbors to the east. We wanted to give it a little time off and then come back strong when we did. During that time, when we were down on the digital front, we stepped up a lot of our live broadcasts from the beach on social media to express our feelings for those folks to the east, while also showing that our beaches and our neighborhoods were untouched. So that would explain that big drop-off in the brand campaign in October. Click-through rate continues to be strong, so we're happy with that. Some of the top-performing placements you see there at the bottom, we'll continue to invest in those as those numbers continue to be strong. So these numbers, again, heavily impacted by that stop in digital advertising. You see the big drops in page views and total sessions, two numbers that correlate directly to each other during that time period, as well as users. And the traffic by channel, oftentimes we see display and paid search advertising being the top drivers to our website. Organic search during this time period overtook those, largely because of that pause in the paid out-of-town effort. The map there is a little tough to see because a lot of the markets are so heavily saturated, but we did see the two big increases we saw in this time period were Chicago and Nashville as a result of our activations and efforts during those time periods in those two markets. But the rest of the usual suspects, Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston, maintained their strong positions over those 2 months. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the marketing portion or go into the research portion.
Mike, can you, I don't know if it's yours or Dave's department.
Yeah.
There was an article in National Geographic.
Right.
Is that something he's going to bring up?
I'd love to take that one, but that was a David project.
Okay,
So.
I wanted to make sure it came out in
Yeah.
today's meeting, and I didn't know who to pick on. So
Yeah, that was a accomplishment of the communications department. So David will be talking about that one.
all right.
Research front, we completed the summer visitor tracking study with the help of friends at Downs and St. Germain. This is research conducted with our visitors that were here in June, July, and August of this year. So a lot of these same numbers we see year after year. The Southeast we know is the strongest in the summertime. It's the strongest all year, but specifically in the summer. Bless you. Of that 76% coming from the South, about 18% came from Texas. So Texas was our #1 state. Both Dallas and Houston were in the top 5 in cities of origin for us over the summer period. Some of the other key numbers that we can pull out of that report, some of the real positive stuff, 94% plan to return to South Walton, and on a scale of 1 to 10, we received a 9.2 rating on visitor satisfaction. So very encouraging numbers, real happy about that as it projects into future visitation. And 17% of the visitors were first-timers. So the summertime we know is very popular among those annual trip. 83% of the folks in the summertime had been here in the past. Beach activities, our top activities, the beach dominates in the summertime, so that was on nearly every respondent's list. Restaurants, time to relax, and family time round out the list. Some year-over-year comparisons. As we see, usually direct spending and economic impact usually mirror bed tax collections, and that's pretty similar here as well. They're both up 4.6%. It's not quite the growth that we saw in bed tax collection, but those are usually pretty direct correlation. Total visitors over 2 million, which represents nearly 50% of our annual visitation, comes in June, July, and August. The room rate was down a little less than 2%, and occupancy almost flat, down 0.5%. Jason talked at the onset of the meeting of the huge increase in units in the destination. That would explain how we could have an increase in total visitors and a decrease in occupancy. So very happy with those numbers. That direct spending and economic impact continues to increase, and that's what we like to see. And I'm happy to answer any more questions that you have, or I can turn it over to Dawn for the group sales portion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Morning, Dawn.
Good morning, Council. How are you?
Good.
Good. I will take a few seconds to update you on our group efforts. We recently attended in early November, Connect Florida. It was at the Henderson. So we had some great presence there. We sponsored a breakfast at the Tennessee Meeting Planners International in Nashville, obviously a big target market for us. So within that, we branded the room during breakfast, and then we had the opportunity for two of our partners to have podium time, which is the Hilton Sandestin and the Sandestin Resort. Approximately 180 people in attendance, meeting planners in Tennessee. So another very successful opportunity there. And then we just got back from Florida Encounter, which is a group conference and trade show sponsored by Visit Florida. It was in Bonita Springs. Next year it will be in Panama City Beach. So we will be starting work now on a greater presence and how we capitalize on that very near proximity so that we can bring meeting planners over pre or post for that event. There are no group trade shows or opportunities scheduled for December or January, I think, with respect to holidays and follow-up for end of year and beginning of year, but we will start strong again with our travel in February. We're very excited about a direct mail piece that we're putting together now. This will help us from a group standpoint kind of cut through the clutter of advertising and digital and really target the meeting planners that are specific to what we need. And we're targeting planners who don't have a brand awareness of our area or have limited brand awareness, but we know have the ability to host meetings in a coastal destination. So we've worked really hard on the list. We'll be sending this discovery box to over 950 planners. This is the start of what the box will look like. It will have a Viewmaster. Those of us that remember Viewmasters from our childhood, we think will be fun to have that. We'll have 2 reels in there. One will be some very iconic photography of the destination. The other reel will be specific to hotels that are partnering with us. The 4 hotels that are partnering are the Hilton, Sandestin Resort, Watercolor, and the Pearl. In addition to the box, and the box, this is an early, it will continue to look like that from an exterior, but it's a much larger box now because the box includes a honey sample from Honey Hutch, a great specific recipe from Emerald's, and some information about his restaurant, a branded candle, scented and branded on the exterior for South Walton. And we're excited about this experience box. It will hit meeting planners' desk mid to late January, hopefully. We are on track, and there will also be a 20-page brochure in there talking about the destination. Visitor center numbers. In September, we welcomed 1,070 visitors, which was a 3% decrease from 2017. October was 966 visitors. That was a 10% decrease from 17. We were closed for 4 days due to the hurricane, and then obviously aftermath. We're still feeling a little bit of the effects of that, and we were not closed any days in October, so that's where that particular larger decrease came from. But year to date, we welcomed 18,231 visitors into the center, which was an overall 6.7% increase to last year. Our merchandise sales continue to be strong, $5,293 in September, which was a 210% increase year over year, and October, $6,012, a respectable 19% increase from 2017. So overall fiscal year, we sold $73,557 in merchandise sales, which is a 75% increase year over year. Any questions before I turn it over to David?
Good job, Don. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And outgoing council members, thank you so much for your support, and we will miss you.
Okay, here's your chance to shine.
We're all excited. Good morning, David Demers, Director of Communications. We start off with the traditional snapshot. Gives you an idea of how many articles we've collected in the last reporting period, the value of those articles, number of impressions, and the number of media who have visited us throughout the year. and key media engagements, by which we mean conversations we've had with specific journalists. If we send them an email, that doesn't count as a key media engagement. We want to have a meaningful interaction. Current pitch themes, of course, holiday travel, hurricane recovery efforts, our events, since we're in event season, and luxury market, which is part of our brand. The hurricane recovery efforts, some of the press we've gotten there, it's actually been pretty exciting, for me anyways. It's difficult to get a story told that you weren't demolished by a hurricane. It's hard to get that in there. So the fact that we have gotten some of those placements, one of them in the New York Times, is a big deal. That when there's an article in the New York Times about the Panhandle being demolished, we do have a sentence in there that says, nearby South Walton County was spared of the effects and has come to the aid of their neighboring counties. That's about as good as you can expect for that to be. So excited about that. Had a recent media mission to New York. These are what I call desk side visits. Go visit the journalists where they live. So I go up there rather than them coming down here. And those can provide pretty quick, meaningful results. One of the places we visited was Foders, which is a guidebook company. And currently, as of today, we have a journalist working on behalf of Foders in the market. Is going to update their guidebooks on our area, and that needed to be done. So that was a pretty quick turnaround. Fathom was a quick turnaround for us as well, in terms of they sent out for us a newsletter and also a social media update post-hurricane to promote Walton County Cares, which is the website that we launched to help organize information, how to help the counties, and also get the message across that Walton County was in good shape and fortunate, and looking to help our neighbors, which is a nice story.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but will you continue to deliver that message moving into the spring and into the summer? Because of booking patterns and things, people have such short-term memory that I think we need to deliver that message moving forward into the season.
Absolutely. As long as it stays an active story that there was destruction in the Panhandle, which I think could remain an active story, then that will be our story as well. And as long as Walton County Cares is up and active, and we were updating it with information last week, so that's staying current. We'll continue to include that story. Some of the other, the greatest hits you see on there, Birmingham Magazine, we partnered with the Harvest Food and Wine folks to bring some people in and give them a tour around and make sure that while they were here for the event, they got to see all of South Walton. That was important in those sorts of trips. What Richard brought up and isn't on this month's cycle, but is certainly on all of our minds, was in addition to mentions in the New York Times that are not mentioned on this roundup, we also got into National Geographic Traveler as their 2019 best places in the world to visit. There were only 4 places on that list that were in the United States. And in South Walton, they called us South Walton County, which I'll take, was on that list. So that's great. So if you, like I said, if you're not going to be able to drive to Africa, then you can come drive to South Walton, and we'd love to have you.
And if you see the comparisons around the world to make that list, I mean, I think one was Mongolia and one was who knows where.
They were, I mean, they're very aspirational destinations, very difficult to get to in comparison to us. So we think that's a great list to be on. And it gets a lot of worldwide press, because every spot that got that mentioned, they ran that story. And so South Walton got to be in all of those stories, which is killer. And that one actually is, here's how that unfolded. Last January, I went to what's called IMM, International Media Marketplace, in New York. That's like speed dating with editors and journalists. One of the editors that I met with was the National Geographic Adventure online editor. She followed up with me right after, put a pitch to her, the Underwater Museum of Art, which was one of our best pitches, and an example of how one story can get your foot in the door to tell the whole story. But she followed up shortly after that. It took about 5 months. By June, the Underwater Museum of Art was featured in a National Geographic story about underwater museums. And that is what put us in line to get that next win.
Will we see more of that, of the Artificial Reef Association and UMA in our marketing as we move forward, now that it's been picked up in those international magazines? Will that become anywhere in our marketing program part of it?
So that's a marketing question, Mike.
Well, I was going to ask it to him, but I was waiting for you.
Yeah, I think it's a good part of the storytelling that we do, for sure. And it's an example that it's a great pitch. You know, you're not going to get 1 million people diving that reef, but you're going to get millions and millions and millions of people intrigued in South Walton because of that story.
Well, it goes further to the new visitor center, and is there a place for it there? And does, you know, with the acknowledgement of it and the excitement of it, does it become a featured part of what South Walton is?
And that's something we've been able to do recently, is update our webpage to have a better presence for the Saguaro nearshore reefs, because we bought some photography this year, aerial photography that really showcases those reefs. And it's definitely a case of a picture being worth 1,000 words. But and having those reefs in different locations up and down the beach allows us a way to talk about locations up and down the beach. And I think that's critically important.
Jim, to kind of further on that, there was on the Outdoor Channel, there was an offshore fishing trip that was featured. Then there was another one on the bay and the river on fly fishing, I think it was. And so I think all of those are kind of perimeter. Sorry, excuse me, stay right there. Those are all kind of perimeter things that I think you have a good point on when we talk about diversifying. And you know, we all just think it's just the beach, but it's not. So I think it's a good point to bring that up, that, you know, when you think about the bay and you think about the river and the underwater museum and all that, I think that's something that marketing ought to take a look at. And since we're getting exposure in the New York Times and National Geographic, we ought to pick up on that, and I agree with you 100%.
And certainly that aerial.
Did you catch that, Mike? Just checking.
Quick comment from here, if that's okay. It is going to be featured in multiple episodes of the show this season. We required some aerial and underwater footage. So the museum and the reefs, and in the outdoor adventure guide that I mentioned earlier, there is a 2-page spread dedicated to both of those programs. So we'll continue to integrate it into all of our marketing platforms going forward.
And it's going to be an annual deployment, so that the UMA will continue to grow, and there will be the story will be ongoing.
That helps especially, to have the one of the things that made it so successful this year was this was the first underwater museum of art in the United States. And so while we won't be we will always be the first, as we add to it, that gives opportunities to interview those artists or get a behind the scenes look at the art that's there. And we should be better equipped with photography this year than we were previously, because strangely enough, when you tell people we're going to launch this museum, that's a great story, and they say, can I get some photos of it? And you say, well, it's not there yet, but this year we'll have an easier time with photography, and so I think it's going to continue. Something else to mention is the Connection still goes out once a month. We restarted that early last year. We keep all the that's free to sign up for anyone. We really push it towards our partners. It's more industry related news. It does do a roundup of communications, marketing, sales, and beach operations, as well as our TDT rates. It has a really good open rate for an email newsletter. The most popular section in that is the Beach Ops section. That's where we update where we are on all of our projects, and for the past 5 or 6 months, we've had information about customary use in there as well, so that people have some material they can copy and paste to share with their guests, because that is a tricky subject. Another thing to mention is Lisa, who is not new to the TDC, but is in a new position, and she got thrown into it in a very busy time of the year for that position. She has done a great job organizing the Artist of the Year and the Perfect Awards, which we've moved to announce in January, and that's been successful. And Lisa's started going out to meet with our partners, just to remind them how they can engage with the TDC, what we can offer them, and to ask them how we can better serve them as a partner in it. We think that that's very important. So to kind of give you a rundown of some of the high points, you'll notice not just the ones we've mentioned already, but also we've gotten some good coverage in Meetings magazines. That's something we started putting more content behind. And next page, you see Architectural Digest was a good one. 50 most beautiful small towns in America. South Walton had 2 on that list. So that's really remarkable, we think, as well. The Fathom links we love was one of the links was talking about Walton County Cares. And we continue to put our events out there as well. And the Travel Industry Today, Good Neighbors, was also about Walton County Cares. So here you can kind of see the clippings and picture format, how it appeared in the magazines, newspapers, and websites. And that's it for me. Brian's not here, so I guess we can all go get lunch now. Do you have any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good job.
Thanks, David.
Thanks. And,
Good job.
and on that note, I'll be going back to International Media Marketplace again this year, so we just keep pitching as much as we can.
There you go.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, Brian.
Brian Kellenberger, for the record. All right, let's see if we can knock this stuff out real quick. Brian always has a lot of stuff. Real quick, let me just do an update. David didn't mention the 2 destinations that were highlighted in Architectural Digest, so I will mention them. One was Seaside, and the other was Alice Beach. So great for them that they were recognized in such a prestigious publication, and out of every place in the United States. I mean, we had 2 on that list. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So anyway, let me jump into Brian's stuff here. So beach maintenance, we have, can we go to the next slide, Lisa? So here we go. We have garbage collection for September. For 2018, we had 5,724 bags collected. And then for October, we had 5,112. We were down quite a bit for October, but we think that was due to the storm, obviously, with the storm itself for that week, and then, just not so many people on the beach a little bit after that. Update on multi-use path renovations. Phase 2 is 283 to Western Lake. We've chatted about this with the council in the past, and you had made the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that we do this deal with the state park. I think it is really a great collaborative effort between the state parks and the county. So in exchange for the easement there along 30A, the park would like some improvements for restroom pavilion, paved parking area, which I have been told that we are not doing paved. The park changed their mind on that, so we won't be doing paved, and then a crosswalk to the park entrance. That is great. We're working on that, and so as we move forward on that, we'll give you an update in the future. Wooden Bridge repair and replacement. We have contracts that were awarded for the Deer Lake and Eastern Lake multi-use path bridges. Eastern Lake project to begin in early December, and the Deer Lake project to begin in early March. Existing regional beach access renovations. So we have the work scope is to repair and replace of handrails, deck boards, and signage, replace structural components as required. In 2016, we had these projects funded, so it's been a while, and so now we're getting to work on these. But they're 100% designed and permitted, and they are 3 RBAs and 10 NBAs. The 3 RBAs are Inlet Beach, what was the other 2? Seagrove. Was it Seagrove? No, it's the new one. So Fort Panic was one. Inlet, and what was the third one? Do you remember? Miramar Beach. Yes, thank you. Okay. So these are currently out for bid. We've kind of had some where we bid them out. The price came back high. We think that might have been, that was right around the time when Michael hit. So we think that might have been a result of why it was so high. So we threw that out and rebid it. So we'll see where those come back when we move forward with that. 2017 funded projects, design permit approximately 95%. Construction be approximately scheduled not to interfere with tourist season. So we felt it was really important that as we move forward with these, that we're not doing them at the same time. So if we have a certain area, let's just say Seagrove, if there's multiple beach accesses in that area that will be renovated, we're not going to do them at the same time in the Seagrove area. So, and then we're also not going to do them during tourist season. New beach access construction. So you can see there the Dune Island RBA design is 100% complete, and we expect that construction should begin in January, and that should take about 6 to 8 months to complete. Miramar Beach RBA, that is about 60% complete. The Walton County Board of Adjustments approved the land use variance regarding the setback and landscape requirements. We had a little issue with that there's 2 parcels there. One has a house on it now, and we were using the setback that's currently there with the house. And so we had to then go back and ask for a variance of that. Even though it's already there and it's existing, that was something that we had to have reapproved. So, and that got approved, so we're happy to hear that. We didn't have to go back and change the plans, because that always sets us back. And then we are working on the land use change to public recreation, and that'll be at the December planning meeting. Seagrove RBA, that's about 30% complete. The land use change to Parks and Recreation was approved in November. There are no variances expected, and the design and permitting is expected to take approximately 6 months, and construction to begin in next summer, summer of 19. The next items, Lisa, can you move forward, please? Okay, that's it. Yeah, thank you. So the effects of House Bill 631. So we had cease and desist on the beach maintenance operations, and we've discussed that. So just wanted to kind of reiterate where we are on that. So for private, where we can't get to the garbage, we are not collecting garbage, just so we do not have to traverse property that we have been instructed that the homeowners, the property owners, do not want us to traverse that beach. And then for public, we are continuing to pick up at the RBAs and NBAs, so that has not changed. Beach code enforcement. So for total contacts for September, 952, and for October, 827. Then you can see there it starts to break down into the different components. So we have September for glass, 44, for October, 52. And then dog contacts for September, 117, and for October, 133. Bonfire contacts in September, 144, 197 in October. Leave no trace vendor contacts for September is 6, and for October is 9. And then beach vendor contacts for September is 20, and for October, 24. So just some updates on where we are with code enforcement. So for private property, beach code enforcement is having to traverse the private property through the seaward of the mean high water line and the ECL, and the public property, neighborhood beach accesses and regional beach accesses. Code enforcement is going to continue to patrol as they have done before. For reactive code enforcement, private property complaints are accepted for private property owners, must be by the owner, and then for the public, complaints are accepted from any source. Beach code enforcement for leave no trace, private property, the beach code enforcement officers are issuing a notice of violation and following up 24 hours after that initial notice. And for public property, beach maintenance is removing items left on the beach. Wildlife lighting protection zone, code enforcement officers have been, now have limited ability based on where they're able to cross private property lines, so that is impacting how they, enforce wildlife protection zones. Beach-related code revision process, just to give you an update on that. Obviously, that's been through the process of the different committees, the workshops we've had. The council has addressed that, and so that is scheduled to go before the Board of County Commissioners on December 11th. So after that, they will give their recommendations to the county attorney, what they'd like to see for those code revisions, and then we'll have a public hearing to make those official. And that is it for beach maintenance, unless you have any questions for me on
Good
that.
job, Brian. You want to
Thank you.
You want to call Jay up?
Was that faster than Brian normally does it? I was hoping it is. Okay, so I have a few updates that I would like to do. So, we were chatting earlier just about the strategic plan, and one of the things that I kind of heard loud and clear from the strategic plan, with our interaction with our partners and the residents, is people want to be more engaged with the TDC. And so we're not waiting for the strategic plan to be finished. We're already acting on that. The FRLA board, that is the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association, if you're not familiar with that acronym, they have invited me to serve on the board of the local chapter. And so I thought, what better way to engage with our partners for the restaurants and accommodations in our area than to serve on this board. So I'm very excited about that opportunity to represent South Walton on that board. We have a lot of great ideas on what we'd like to do, maybe some business after hours. We're going to do an awards banquet in January, and once we have more details worked out on that, we'll invite you to that so you can attend. But just ways of how we can connect more with our partners. So we already did recognition of new council members, so I'll skip over that. We can go ahead and do new staff. Lisa, can you skip ahead a couple? There we go. So new staff, I think Megan Brown is our new administrative specialist. So she took Cindy's place when Cindy moved over to join me as my assistant. Kaylee Goodman is was seasonal beach ambassador. She has moved to full-time. And then we have Kevin Losnack. He moved over from beach maintenance specialist to beach maintenance technician, and Joe DeLillo moved over from beach maintenance specialist as well to beach maintenance technician. So always like to keep you updated on what's going on with staff at TDC. And, we'll have a few new positions coming forward that I'll be announcing probably at the next meeting. Right now we have the PR specialist position that is vacant, and we'll be doing interviews on those in the next week or so. And then we also have a new administrative person that Brian is hiring, so we'll have that person coming on board. And then we'll have a new social media person. We're getting ready to post that. And then we're getting ready to hire a new visitor center manager. So we're going to be doing interviews on that probably in the next couple of weeks. So lots of great things going on staff-wise. It's always great to promote and hire new people to work at the TDC. Shore Up, wanted to give you an update on this. Actually, I don't think we even talked about this because the last TDC meeting was before the hurricane. So this was an idea that our advertising agency, Zender, helped us with. They have relations, obviously, with us as we're their client, and also with 30A. And so we did something that we wanted to help out with relief efforts, hurricane relief efforts for Hurricane Michael. And so this was something that we partnered with 30A. And so we did these T-shirts, and you can see a picture of it there with the T-shirt. And so it says Shore Up, and then on the sleeve it has the South Walton logo on it. And so we raised $130,000, and those funds were donated to the Sonder Project. And you can see there, as of 11/20, the Sonder Project has strengthened 138 homes and served over 1,900 meals. So really great that we can help in those efforts with our neighbors as they rebuild their communities. I wanted to give you an update on properties. We talked about these at the previous TDC meeting. So the one on 30A near Ed Walleen, the Highland House property, we were ready to do a contract with the owner, and he had an offer from some adjacent property owners in that area to purchase the property at a higher price than what we were offering, so he accepted that offer, so we lost out on that property. And the other property we're still working on, that is over in Seacrest at 8186 County Highway 38 East. So we're still working on that to bring that back to the board, but that is a nice piece of property, so I will certainly let you know where that goes at the next meeting. And then I have a few other updates. The high impact penny, the council had approved for me to bring that to the board, that we write a letter to DOR. The BCC approved that I write that letter, and I did. And I heard back from the DOR, and they will have an answer back to us in February. They are waiting for some numbers to close, which that won't happen until January, so we can expect to hear back from them in February. So what I'd maybe like to do, and I wanted a little guidance from the council on this, but I had a conversation with the board when I brought this up, but I think if we're going to move forward with this, it might be really smart of us to look at all of our pennies and where the dollars are going, and if we want to reallocate some of the funds and where they're going now, and if we enact another penny, what's that going to do, what kind of money that's going to bring in, and what we might want those funds to go to. So might be something we want to have a conversation at in the February meeting. If y'all are interested in that, I can certainly, we can have that discussion. We'll put it on the agenda and have a chat about that. I think that might be good to give the board some guidance on that as we move forward with this. It's better to be prepared. I mean, we don't know if the board will do it or not, but I think if we're prepared for it, we can give them some guidance and information. That'll be good.
I think it's a smart thing to do. It's being proactive rather than reactive.
Okay, great. A couple of things y'all may have been wondering. We usually have our annual meeting in October, and we decided this year that we were going to move our annual meeting to Tourism Week. So our annual meeting is moved to May 6th of 2019. That will be the first annual meeting to take place during Tourism Week. So we thought that might be better that we start now, instead of doing our information where we compile everything by fiscal year. All of our partners work by calendar year, and so we're going to start presenting our economic data on a calendar year as well. And so we'll have all that information at the annual meeting, and we're looking to have a great speaker. I have a meeting with Pam next week to talk about some ideas on a speaker. So if we can get this person, I don't want to let the cat out the bag yet, but if we can get this person, it'll be really amazing. It'll be a great speaker for Tourism Week. Another thing that I wanted to mention was Florida Tourism Day is March 13th. That'll be at the Capitol in Tallahassee, and we will be participating in that. We don't have any details yet other than just the date. So once we get some more information on what those activities look like, we'll be putting that in connections and pushing that out to our partners. But definitely something that we want to really rally up our industry partners here to go and participate in that Florida Tourism Day. And just a couple of other comments, and I kind of mentioned it when I first got up, but just listening to the feedback from our partners, a few other things that we want to do with engaging our partners is we want to have some roundtable listening sessions where maybe it's different segments of the industry. So if it's a restaurant or attractions or the arts and entertainment or our lodging partners, have meetings with these folks and really have a listening session of what do you need, how can we help you? Give an update, kind of similar to what we do at the TDC meetings, and give them an update where it's just one-on-one and say, this is what we're doing, and then what's going on in your world, how can we help you? So we're going to plan on rolling those out probably in February of next year. And at first, I think we're just going to hold per group, per segment, maybe a couple a year, and we'll see how those go. And then if folks want more, then maybe we can look to do 3 or possibly 4. But I don't want to over-meeting people. I know everybody's schedules are really busy, so we thought we'd try it with 2 and see how that goes. So. And we're looking for other ways to engage our partners as well. We'll probably be doing some partnerships. I mentioned FRLA, or maybe some business after hours, but also maybe with the chamber. We really, in this next year, we're going to get out and really promote the TDC and how we can help the community and our partners.
Well, I think it's a great start to our strategic plan as well.
Yeah.
So.
And then lastly, we're also working on, and we talked a little bit about this the last meeting, but some type of a community publication that we can send out on what's going on in the TDC's world, and just to educate not just residents, but also our industry partners. And so we're trying to figure out what 100% that looks like. We think we're going to do a printed piece. How we distribute it, that's what we haven't figured out yet, but perhaps it could be digital and print. But we'll get all those details worked out, and we'll kind of announce that as we move through that. But just kind of wanted to share those thoughts with you. But I mean, what better way than several times a year reaching out to our partners and the residents and saying, hey, these are all the great things that tourism, and not just the TDC, but it's tourism. It's what's going on perhaps at Seaside or the Hilton, or what's going on at Stinky's. And so we want to do highlights of industry workers. And so maybe it's highlighting a chef or a waiter at Jim's restaurant, or maybe it's highlighting a maid and what tourism means to that person and how it impacts their life. and their livelihood. So we really want to make it a meaningful piece. So like I said, it's not going to be all about the TDC. It's going to be about tourism in Walton County. So, and it's something that both locals and visitors can enjoy and get information out of.
Before the meeting, we were chatting about that, and we're all talking about, you know, the media that we think everybody uses, but, you know, getting a newsletter to every resident in South Walton. I mean, I get stuff in the mail that, like, I get a Sandestin publication that's similar to what you're talking
Right.
about. And I faithfully read it every month because I want to know what's going on in my resort. And I think something that goes out to all the residents and the partners, like in the form of a newsletter a couple times a year, I think is a great idea. Because, you know, people come here and they say they don't know what's going on. Well, if you put it in their lap, you know, maybe some of it's going to end up in junk mail, but I think it's a great idea.
So we're excited about some of these initiatives, and like I said, as they unfold, I'll certainly give you updates along the way, but I didn't want to really wait until the strategic plan was done to get started on this. You know, we're getting ready to start a new year, we're going to have a new council, so there's lots of excitement at the TDC right now, so let's just hit the ground running and get things going for the new year now.
Thank
And
you,
that's
Jay.
it for me, unless y'all have any questions for me.
Any comments?
On the trash, I'm gonna start on that again.
Oh, good. I'm a partner.
Again, we need to see what we can do. I noticed Lee's here from Scenic Quarter. We gotta get with the county or whatever, and we've gotta figure out a way. We got a Scenic Quarter. Once again, I'll say that phrase. We've got to figure out where we can get the money to at least go and clean, pick up trash every 2 weeks. At least that.
Well, it's certainly
Because
something that we
waiting
can
for the mowers
look
to
at.
do it, well, the mowers are, you know, they're not even picking it up anyway. But if you go by.
Well, I will
98
say this in the mower's defense, I mean, because I drive 98 every day, as I'm sure most of y'all do. I mean, it's the main thoroughfare in Walton, South Walton. But in their defense, I mean, they can mow, and, I mean, literally 20 minutes later after they're gone, I mean, people just have stuff flying out the back of trucks, and people throw litter out. I mean, it's an unfortunate world that we live in.
Before the cut, but
Well,
there's so much.
But, so
Somehow,
I think we might need to look at, okay, is the contractor doing what they need to do? And then if they are, what else do we need to do to maybe supplement their efforts? So I think it's just something that we can take a look at to see, you know, how we can better the look, the aesthetic of South Walton. So
And
we
I'm
can
not-
look at it.
I'm not just picking on the mowers.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they do sometime, they don't sometime, but the fact of the matter is with what's happened next door in Bay County and all, that those trucks and all are coming back this way. They're staying over here and they're loaded up in the back, and you can see now fenders, you can see trash, you can see boards. I mean, it's really, really gotten bad.
But you know, what's amazing to me is it's not just though stuff flying out like at the back of the truck. I mean, people are litter bugs. I mean, I have seen people just roll down their window and just throw garbage out their window. I'm like, what are you doing?
So you know the premise of that. Typically, when people see that there's trash all along, they're not gonna care. They're just gonna go throw their trash out. So when they see it clean, there might be a little mindset that they may hold that and put it in their car and maybe throw it in the garbage can when they get home. So I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah, but we can look at some alternatives beyond what is in the contract for the mowers. And maybe if it's something we can either add to their contract if we need to, or if there's another avenue. I think, and I'm just spitballing here, but maybe there's something we can do at prisoners, you know, to clean up.
That
So
was gonna be one of my recommendations, is to put those guys to work.
Bring back the chain gangs.
yeah, so but we'll look at some options and we'll bring it back to you.
I mean, they could do that weekly and give them something to do, get some fresh air,
Yeah.
you know, what the heck. But, yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to look into it
I
for you.
would appreciate that.
I know it's passionate to you.
Any other council comments? I'd like to make just one or two. First of all, I want to thank you, Jay. We had a good discussion about you, and it's too bad that your life has to kind of be laid out in
It is what
public
it is.
like that, but it is what it is. I just want to say thank you, and I've really enjoyed working with you. Certainly excited about the new members. I'm sorry to see the old ones go, but I just want to make a special note to somebody who's not expecting that, and that's Jim Richard. We've all done, I guess, a little bit or a lot or whatever, but this guy went out on a limb. I'm not even gonna guess how many meals you served while you're over in Bay County, but this guy went over beyond any expectations with some other folks, and serve literally thousands and thousands of meals, and I just want to make it public that we all appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll have to note that Jim Shirley coming in this seat is the person who organized a lot of that, so
Okay.
he
Well-
deserves the credit as well.
Well, then, just for the public, so it's in the record, a note of thanks to both of you.
Thank you very,
What
very
you did
much.
was very, just absolutely amazing and had a real impact.
I'd like to just add something to that. Our community, the way it is pulled together to help our neighbors is absolutely amazing. I mean, I had lunch with Stacy Hamilton last week, and we were talking about, her coming on to the council, and we were chatting about their efforts and what they're doing for their employees. And I mean, it's really amazing what Alice Beach is doing for their employees to help them. And so, and that echoes over. I mean, it's not just Jim Richard or Jim Shirley, I mean, or Stacy. I mean, it's our whole community. And it is just absolutely amazing to see that outpouring of support. It really, a lot of times in this day and age, there's so much strife and just turmoil, but it's really nice to see people come together when they need to come together.
I want to say one thing to that too. As a matter of fact, I was doing a few things back early to November. There was a couple from Tennessee that came down. They had a house here. They came down here specifically to stay in that house and go over and help. I've got, during the holidays, I had some friends, family, and they came to dinner. They all wanted to go and help in Bay County. So a lot of people are actually wanting to come down and stay here and go help. So it's really kind of amazing.
Volunteerism is a big thing.
Come together, I know, which is part of our tourism, but, they're coming and staying here and doing something that makes them feel
Belief
good.
in humanity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially in the world
Absolutely.
that we live in. Are there any other
Thank you.
council comments? Any other comments from the public?
And real quick, I'm going to go ahead and sit down, but afterwards, if the outgoing council members would mind just staying so we can take some photographs real quick, I'd appreciate it.
All right, state your name for the record.
Thank you, Council Lee Moore.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. Echo, I think it's going to be really challenging to ever get a real handle on the trash out there, but because of litter bugs and the flying out of the trucks, and I'm sure the increase from the traffic from our east is contributing to that, and hopefully that will, for everybody's sake, especially theirs, that will slow down soon. But we always support any efforts and appreciate any efforts to keep that corridor clean. The other thing I want to say, just quick throw this out there, going back to Mr. Tusa's proposed pay increase. First of all, for what it's worth, and me individually in my work with Jay and what I do in the community, I support it 150%. I think he's done a fabulous job. One quick suggestion, you brought up the palatability of a larger increase like that. So I have a little bit of a background in human resources, and one of the things that I've done in the past that's been helpful is to splice out a larger increase between a performance or merit increase and a market standard adjustment. Because really part of what you're doing, and statedly so, is bringing him into alignment with the market. And that's really important, and you don't want that to get lost in the process of trying to make it fit with other people's salary levels, and this being a larger increase than they're used to. So that's just one suggestion that might make it more palatable, and I think that that maybe two-phase approach is a good one, because we really, I agree with Mr. Hagan, it's really tough to find good talent. Got a ton of it sitting right up here, but out there in the general workforce, it's hard to find good talent here, and we don't want to lose it. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion is second. All of those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Opposed?
Jim, nice working with you. I want my name to be all over the minutes. Yeah, just kidding.
We know we'll see you around.
Yeah, absolutely. Come see you down in your place. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Glad you're staying on.